The day Amara's husband walked out of their marriage, he left her with only an old suitcase, a broken-down house, and enough money to buy one loaf of bread. He looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Kelvin, you are nothing without me." Amara said nothing. She simply watched him drive away. But Kelvin didn't know something. That abandoned woman he thought was worthless would one day become the person everyone in the city wanted to meet. And when Kelvin finally came back, he would be the one standing at her gate, begging. Welcome to African Tales Arising, where every story carries a lesson. If you love emotional African stories filled with betrayal, family success, and unexpected twists, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Now let us begin. Amara had been married to Kelvin for 7 years. When they first met, Kelvin was a struggling mechanic with big dreams. Amara believed in him. She sold vegetables at the market during the day and helped him pay for tools whenever his business was struggling. When Kelvin's first workshop failed, Amara stood beside him. When he lost money, she encouraged him. When people laughed at his dreams, she told him, "Your time will come." And eventually it did. Kelvin's second workshop became successful. Then he opened another. Soon he was driving expensive cars and wearing designer clothes, but success changed him. The man who once ate roasted maize with Amara on a roadside began complaining that she embarrassed him. "You don't dress like the wives of successful men," he told her. "You don't know how to behave in rich people's circles." Amara was confused. "Kelvin, I was with you before you had anything." He looked away. That is exactly the problem. One evening, Kelvin arrived home with a woman named Vanessa. She was young, glamorous, and dressed in expensive clothes. Amara immediately understood. "Who is she?" Kelvin didn't even bother to lie. "She is Vanessa." "And why is she here?" Kelvin sighed. "Amara, our marriage is over." The words shattered her. "You're divorcing me." "Yes." "After everything I did for you?" Kelvin laughed bitterly. "Don't act like you built my life." Amara stared at him. "I believed in you when nobody else did." "And I appreciate that," Kelvin said coldly. "But I don't need you anymore." Vanessa smiled. Kelvin handed Amara a small envelope. Inside was barely enough money to survive a few days. "I've arranged somewhere for you to stay." The place Kelvin sent Amara to was an old house on the edge of town. The roof leaked, the windows were broken, the walls were cracked. There was no electricity, no furniture, no food. Amara stood in the middle of the empty room holding her suitcase. Then she opened Kelvin's envelope. There was only $10 inside. She sat on the floor and cried. Not because of the money, because she finally understood that the man she had sacrificed everything for no longer cared whether she lived or died. That night, rain poured through the broken roof. Amara wrapped herself in an old blanket and whispered, "God, if this is the end of my story, please give me strength." But it wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The next morning, Amara walked to the market. With the little money she had, she bought a few ingredients. She remembered the recipes her grandmother had taught her. She cooked traditional African food and sold it outside a busy bus station. At first, only 2 people bought from her. The next day, 5, then 10. A week later, people began asking, "Who cooked this food?" Amara smiled. "I did." A taxi driver named Musa became one of her regular customers. One afternoon, Musa tasted her food and said, "You should not be selling this from the roadside." Amara laughed. "Then where should I sell it?" "You need your own restaurant." Amara looked at him. "With what money?" Musa pointed toward her food. "You already have what money cannot buy." "What?" "People love your food." Amara started saving every coin. She stopped buying unnecessary things. She woke up before sunrise. She cooked. She sold. She cleaned. She saved. Months passed. Eventually, she rented a tiny shop. She painted the walls herself. She bought 3 tables. She found second-hand chairs. And she gave the restaurant a name, Amara's Kitchen. The first day was quiet. The second day was better. Then someone posted a video of her food online. Everything changed. Customers began arriving from different parts of the city. People loved not only the food but the warmth of the place. Amara remembered every customer's name. She treated everyone with respect. Within 2 years, Amara's little restaurant had become one of the most popular local food businesses in the city. But she didn't stop there. Amara began packaging her grandmother's traditional sauces and spices. She called the company Amara Heritage Foods. Her products were soon being sold in supermarkets. Then hotels began placing orders, then restaurants, then international buyers became interested. Amara hired young women from her community. She trained them, she paid them fairly, and she helped them start businesses of their own. The woman Kelvin had abandoned in a broken house had become a successful entrepreneur, but she remained humble. Meanwhile, Kelvin's life was falling apart. Vanessa had only loved the lifestyle. When Kelvin's businesses began struggling, she disappeared. His investments failed, his debts grew, his expensive cars were repossessed. The friends who once surrounded him stopped answering his calls. One evening, Kelvin sat alone in his empty apartment. He remembered Amara. He remembered her cooking, her patience, her loyalty. And most of all, he remembered the day he told her, "You are nothing without me." Kelvin lowered his head. He had been wrong. Several weeks later, Amara was attending a business meeting when her assistant entered. "There is a man outside asking to see you." "Who?" The assistant hesitated. "Kelvin." Amara froze. After all these years, he had returned. She took a deep breath. "Let him come in." Kelvin walked into the office. He looked completely different. The expensive clothes were gone. The confidence was gone. He looked tired. He stood before Amara. For several seconds, neither spoke. Finally, Kelvin whispered, "Amara." She looked at him calmly. "How can I help you?" Kelvin's eyes filled with tears. "I made a terrible mistake." Amara said nothing. "I lost everything." Still she said nothing. "I need your help." Amara looked at the man who had once left her with $10. Then she asked, "Why did you come to me?" Kelvin lowered his head. "Because you are the only person I know who has a heart." Amara took a long breath. Then she said something he never expected. "I will help you." Kelvin looked up. "You will?" "Yes." His face brightened, but Amara continued, "I will help you find work." Kelvin's smile disappeared. "I don't understand." "You need to learn how to rebuild your life." "I thought you would give me money." Amara shook her head. "That is exactly what I won't do." Kelvin looked embarrassed. Amara stood up. "When you left me, you thought money was everything." She walked toward the window. "You gave me $10 and an empty house." Then she turned around. "But you accidentally gave me something much more valuable." Kelvin stared at her. "What?" "Freedom." Amara offered Kelvin a small position in one of her businesses, not as an executive, not as a manager, but as an ordinary employee. He accepted. For the first time in years, Kelvin had to work with his hands again. He learned humility, he learned patience, and he learned that success without character is empty. As for Amara, she continued building her company. She opened restaurants, she created jobs, she supported young entrepreneurs, and she never forgot the woman she had once been. Years later, someone asked her, "Do you regret marrying Kelvin?" Amara smiled. "No." The interviewer looked surprised. "Why?" "Because sometimes the person who breaks your heart is unknowingly pushing you toward the life you were meant to live." She paused. "And sometimes losing everything is how you finally discover what you are capable of becoming." Amara thought Kelvin had destroyed her life, but the truth was different. He had only closed one chapter. She wrote the next one herself. So remember, never let someone else's opinion become the measure of your worth. People may abandon you, people may underestimate you, people may laugh at your dreams, but your story is not finished just because someone else walks away. Sometimes, the greatest comeback begins on the day you have absolutely nothing left. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to African Tales Arising, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and tell us in the comments, I will rise again. Until our next story, never give up on yourself.